What's up, everybody? This is Henry from the Cannabis Dispatch, also the CBD Business Networking Group on Facebook, and I have two very special guests today, Blake DeJesus and Chris of ASI Hemp. So you two, please introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about ASI Hemp.
Yes, my name is Blake DeJesus. I am the Director of Sales and Production here at Agri Integrated Solutions, AIS for short. This is Chris. He's our Director of Process.
Oh,
so, awesome. Nice to meet you.
So here at Agri Integrated Solutions, we are a USDA organic certified processing facility. We run CO2 extraction. We have two 100-liter solvent chambers that was manufactured and produced by Isolate Extraction Systems out of Colorado. We're located in Little Rock, Arkansas, right next to the industrial port and the Air Force. We're right in the central hub of Arkansas, which is also a very central hub to the lower region of the United States as far as transportation of products within, the lower U.S. states. Chris is, well, let me tell you a little bit about me. So I started working here at Agri Integrated Solutions last year. This is a new company, started up. We really opened the doors and started putting the building together in April of last year. Really didn't start running production or anything until mid-June. We had a lot of R&D. We're now getting to a position where we have really fine-tuned our instruments and our process and really started going that route as far as being ready to produce and process biomass. I came from a military background. I've spent the last 11 years as a flight engineer on C-130s in the Air Force. Before that, I was an aircraft mechanic and a police officer. So I've kind of went full spectrum in this industry from one end of the spectrum to the other. I now serve as, the production manager, but I do most of my work goes on the machine back here behind me, where we're doing a lot of R&D, and this is a very tunable technology. So it gives us a lot of options when it comes to an end product and the process that we get out of that. Chris, you want to tell them a little bit about your experience?
Sure, I'm Chris. Nice to meet you all. My background is a lover of the plant. I got a degree in horticulture back in the 90s. I started cultivating in the 80s. I'm just pleased that all this is transpiring in my lifetime, where we can legally and legitimately explore all the potential that this plant has to offer for, wherever this goes.
Did what all did you do in Colorado?
Yeah, I worked under a license in Colorado from 2014 to 2017 in the strictly medical, not recreational, but I was able to go out and cultivate and dispense and get to know people and try to find a feel for what this industry needs. And my take on it is just reasonable, calm, a voice of health and well-being. I mean, to me, this isn't really about people getting high anymore. It's about a quality of life issue.
Oh yeah, of course. Like the cannabis plant has so many benefits too that have yet to be discovered as well too. So yeah, it's going to change a lot of industries as well too. So what was it that made you guys want to go into this business as well too?
Well, being in Arkansas, as of right now, Arkansas, we have medicinal marijuana. Arkansas's legislation handles this a little bit different. I'm sure everybody's aware, every state kind of does their own thing. It all revolves around a federal description of the law, but they all kind of amend it to their own personal liking. Arkansas, however, I think right now we have 38 actual medical marijuana dispensaries within the state. That being said, there was hundreds of applications for those 38 dispensary license. Chris and Paige is Chris's wife. She's the owner, one of the owners of the business. But I think that was the original intention, was to go for a dispensary license.
Well, what we had hoped was for a little more egalitarian, response to the demand for medical marijuana. And what we realized was Arkansas, like many states, has been beset by a complicated rollout that's been, I don't know, it's not really what I'm here to talk about today. The plant that we process has many potentials, so much benefit. And what we're trying to do is help folks in need of pain relief, in need of anxiety relief, in need of insomnia relief, find that without a whole bunch of overregulated, complicated government intrusion. So once the Farm Bill passed, the most recent Farm Bill, and we got our license, then we just connected with the technology and then, you know, my network of contacts to position ourselves to help people.
Oh, awesome.
I think the big key with him was once they realized that they wanted to take advantage of the hemp program and get into it, and we started digging into the methods of process, whether it be ethanol extraction, hydrocarbon, rosin press. CO2 is really the way of the future. One being that it doesn't use toxic solvents to extract the oil. We use above food grade quality CO2, which is the same thing you would find in your soda pop from the gas station. So it's non-harmful to the body. That being said, at a specific state, the CO2 acts what we call the supercritical state, which is basically the CO2 is not a gas, it's not a liquid, it acts as a solvent. It makes a very, very high quality oil. And I think the industry is starting to learn that. I'm seeing more and more people tailor towards products that are CO2. They usually provide a much flavorful, better tasting end product. So we knew that we wanted to not only go that route, but go that route in the sense that we could provide for anything. So we are one of the bigger CO2 extraction processors. There's only, I could probably count on 1.5 hands any machines that are our size or bigger in the United States. That being said, we also wanted to go the USDA organic certification route. That's something that most people are not doing, but we know, and what we believe as human beings, we're for that. Here at AIS, we don't have any waste. Basically, everything we do is utilized to the point that we have we use organic certified ethanol to clean all of our instruments and dishware. That is the only thing that is in here. There's no other harmful chemicals, anything else is used. And we don't use, ethanol for the extraction. But once the product goes through our whole system, we don't just dispose of it, because we've learned that the hemp, because being a CO2 extracted, still has tons of good cannabinoid profiles and concentration still in the product. And hemp, being one of few plant fiber products that has a full amino acid profile, has a high protein content as well. So we pelletize our spent biomass, and we don't extract the oil out up to the point that we start pulling those heavy waxes and fats out of the hemp that makes our what we like to refer to as a fractional distillate, which I'll elaborate on in a minute. We don't want to make that quality and that texture and the color of that oil deteriorate. So we leave a little bit left in the pellets and the biomass, which we pelletize, and we actually make our own pet product line of pelletized pellets. There's about 30 milligrams of CBD per 1-inch pellet. In our packaging, I think we have 270 pellets. It's about 8,000 milligrams of CBD, which is unheard of for any packaging for a pet. But that being said, we're too stingy about the fact that we know that there's so much value left in that. We can't just dispose of that and not put it out there. So we sell that at a very, very low rate in comparison to that many milligrams in any other product that's on the market. Everything we do here is recyclable. We don't use any disposable paper for cleaning. We use all towels that we run through a cleaning towel service, and so it gets reused. Unfortunately, we started at the height of the pandemic, so every one of us, my job was to run this machine when I first started here, and I was back there pushing buttons, and that was going to be it, and I was going to be the mechanical engineer for this. That being said, here we are a year to date since I started, and I'm working as the sales director. I'm going out meeting new retail clients and making deals with farmers. I'm going to actual farms, walking through the crop. So I've indebted a lot of my time over the past year to not only bring myself up to speed on this industry, but to learn the plant and everything evolved around it as fast and quickly as possible. My experience in the military, being a flight engineer, is you've got to always be adapting and always willing to learn, because anybody that refers to themselves in this industry as an industry expert is not somebody that I want to deal with on a hand-to-hand basis, because you'll never hear me refer to myself as an expert. Chris knows 30 years more about this, and he still won't do that. That's because this plant has so much stuff. Every single day, we learn something new about the plant. And the moment that we feel like we know everything is when you stop learning. And so you'll never hear us refer to ourselves as an industry expert. We are a student of the plant and doing our best every day to learn more and more about it, which because of that, integrity in the way that we view this, we've implemented a more transparent processing facility. The industry has experienced a huge glut. Right now, any conversation that's related to the process of hemp is really a conversation of storage. I can take 2,000 pounds of flour, process it into oil. Keep in mind that CO2 is also commonly used as a food preservative. It displaces oxygen, which in turn decreases the rate of decomposition within a product or a food. I can make that into a CO2 infused oil sealed that then extends the life of that oil by a couple years and decreases its room capacity to next to nothing. So right now, all the conversations I'm having with farmers are that, hey, I was told that if I bought this amount of flour and seed or plant this amount of seeds and made this much flour that I could sell it for this. That's not the case. There's no, and on a large scale, there's no big transactions of 80,000, 100,000 pound contracts out there. There are some facilities that have already had those contracts and are sustaining that, but they're not really picking up new contracts. And there's more contracts that are now falling through because people have tons and tons and tons of oil on their shelves. Going back to a point I mentioned earlier about we don't refer to our oil as crude oil. Unfortunately, there's not a term specifically for it. You'll hear multiple things. We like to refer to it as a fractional distillate. The reason that is one, we understand that in order for anything to be a distillate, it has to go through the full distillation process. That's not the case here. However, on the scale of potency and purity, our oil comes out usually anywhere from mid-70s to 80% pure on one pass through our machine. And it's ingredient ready. You can take it, mix it with MCT oil, and you have a tincture just like that. You could post-process it a little bit better with minimal effort and make it a high potency isolate or distillate, very, very easily. But we don't do that, one, because as we're storing this stuff on the shelves, because right now I've got hundreds of kilos in my inventory, I want a little bit of that CO2 to stay in there because, like I said, it displaces the oxygen and it adds to the life of the oil. But really, that's a kind of in a nutshell what we're here and our mission is about. We provide, going back to the transparency issue, we're one of few processing facilities that we pay very, very good attention to detail. When your product comes in as a farmer, if you bring me your product, it gets weighed to the, all the way down to the decimal when it comes through the door. It gets assigned a lot number, batch number, and then I share a drive through our Google Suites, a spreadsheet's created where you can go in and log into that at any point in time and track every single bag and its step in the process through our facility. Is it in terpene extraction? Is it in decarboxylation? Is it in oil extraction? Is it in milling? Is it in our sifting process? And then you can look at the individual outputs of each run down to the decimal and keep up with that. So that's one thing that us as a processor want to give anybody invested in us and a partnership is the comfort of knowing that what you bring me, you're getting back, and you're getting back. And I'm not skimming anything off the top. I'm not going to tell you only got 60 kilos and there's no way for you to confirm that. I'm going to let you watch that and go through the whole process with me. And so there's never a doubt where I am and what I'm doing with your product while it's here. Do you have any other questions, any topics you'd like me to elaborate on? Because I can go.
Yeah, we'll do it. I know. Yeah. Going back to the business too, you mentioned you started during the pandemic. So what was the toughest thing that you went through when you guys first opened up?
Man, what do you think?
Well, we opened a laboratory at the onset of a supply chain crisis for healthcare. So we had difficulty finding every single material, from PPE to just all things were squeezed.
Mentioning the organic ethanol. So it's basically 190 proof or better, the ethanol we're getting. That's our main ingredient we use to clean everything. And you can imagine during the height of a pandemic when there's a shortage of hand sanitizer worldwide, how hard it is and how expensive it is to get the amount of ethanol that we use to clean on a daily basis.
Even the super sacks that contain the ingredient, were the factories that made those were being repurposed for, for masks and any number of things. I don't know that we're unique in the challenges we've faced starting up in the pandemic, but I know that what has resulted in the last year and a half, we're all having to just open our eyes wide and be honest about this industry, and are people getting the medicine at the concentration and quality that they expect and at the price point that they can afford. And so instead of just purely capitalistic, focus on revenue, we're still trying to make sure that we have compassionately priced products available to people who need them in a form or method of delivery that they, are comfortable with. So we're still figuring this out.
Because to piggyback on that, because of the pandemic, we started off at a minimal man outpost here. We knew that the glutton industry was causing many farmers. We had multi hundreds of thousands of pounds tolling contracts and partnerships that were in the works that all just came to a dead end because people realized I can't afford to spend $300,000 to have all of this flour turned into oil that I have absolutely nowhere for it to go, knowing that they've already spent as much money as they have. There's very few people that have the working capital to handle that grudge with the hopes that in 3 years the market's going to bounce back. So what that forced us to do was to go to our own retail line to help kind of offset the slow glut in the market. We knew going into it that we don't want to play around in the world of let's get people to buy our products by making the packaging look famous. It needs to look good. It needs to represent the product and our intentions behind it. That being said, we make a 2,700 milligram full spectrum tincture bottle, 1 ounce tincture bottle. The reason why it's 2,700 is because that is the highest that we can put in there at 0.3, below 0.3 THC. If I could get 3,500, I'd get 30. I put 3,500 in there. We don't make a 1,500, 1,000, for 1 ounce. We make a full spectrum. I'm going to give you the best that I could possibly give you. The profit margins are still there. If I could say I had one thing that I don't like in this industry, it would be the lack of regulation. We support regulation, one being because we put so much effort and time and money into obtaining these USDA organic certifications, GMP licensing, food grade licensing. Because if this industry ever wants to be associated with a legit industry such as pharmaceuticals or anything that has a good ground, it has to be regulated. The moment that, as of right now, you could go into any store in any state and probably find products that have been made in somebody's garage right next to somebody that's been made in a facility like ours, because there's no regulation eyesight that has to be that way, or it has to be this milligram or anything like that. The problem is there's a lot of bad actors out there that are taking a COA from a year ago that came from a flower grown 3 crops ago and using that to sell a product that was just manufactured a couple of weeks prior. There's no consistency in that. And I always urge anybody I talk to, just do your research on the company you're looking at. Look at what they do on outside of the advertisement side. What is their mentality? What's their mottos? What's their willingness to be transparent? Anybody that wants a tour of my facility can send me an email, can show up here on a scheduled time, and I'll give you a hand-to-hand tour and detailed breakdown of everything we do here. There is no hidden curtains here, but I would want that from any product that I bought, knowing that this industry has bad actors and people can get away with doing that. That being said, that kind of gives a good idea on, take on it. We're very passionate about it. We want to succeed. We want the industry to succeed, but at the same time, we're not going to compete against our guys across the street, because this really is a worldwide product. We need the industry to go legit. And the more legit we become, as whether it's knowledgeable people, enthusiasts, consumers, the more knowledge that we all have together, the better chances this industry has of being successful and then going fully recreational at some point and being federally regulated. That's the long-term goal for us.
Oh, of course. Too. Going back to with the business, like if you could start over from day one again, what would you do differently?
What we would do differently is probably nothing, because what we did at the time that we did it, that was the demand, and that was the best option. That's one thing that we don't do. We always make team decisions. No one person in this company makes a decision. Not even the owner of the company. She won't even make a decision on her own. So everything gets thoroughly thought out and planned out, and we do projection cycles. Like, what if this happens? This is what we do. What if this happens? This is what we do. That being said, because this is a startup and a pandemic, every other day was a curveball. For instance, our machine was supposed to be delivered at a point in which the industry was selling kilos of oil at $5,000 a kilo. By the time we got this thing hooked up to running, kilos were selling for anywhere from $800 to $1,000 for CO2 extracted kilos. So you can imagine a budget plan based on, thousands of kilos going out on a, every quarterly schedule to maybe a kilo a week kind of industry. So that completely changed around everything to what are we willing to spend money on as far as what are we going to get our first ROI on, so that led us to the milligram retail products. We knew that we had some inventory, we can make retail products, because unfortunately in the CO2 industry, the biggest line item we have with CO2 extraction is the CO2. It's a very costly line item. So to justify running this mega Willy Wonka machine I've got behind me, I have to have some residual revenue to generate to justify running that.
Oh, gotcha.
But to directly answer your question, because I know I keep kind of bouncing all around that, there's not anything we would do differently, because we came prepared and we methodically thought out everything we did. I guess if there was anything I could say, just for the sake of saying something, I would have maybe wore a different hairstyle for the first time. Got less hemp particles in my hair or something while we're cleaning. But
with the benefit of hindsight looking back, we didn't appreciate the production interest and the amount of other producers coming in at a scale. So aligning ourselves with demand, a sincere demand for a quality product, has been a little challenging. This isn't anything that's got reference data. There's no tradition behind this. So we're really doing our best to figure it out as we go. What we want is consumer confidence, but what we need is consumer education. So we've retooled from production to PR a lot in our marketing, just so that people understand the difference in what we're willing to provide versus what's just, abundantly available. So there's a lot of education, there's a lot of communication. I think emphasizing that, and then and the shift over to e-marketing and this whole platform, that wasn't so well established a year ago. I doubt many of us had been on 100 Zoom calls, before this time last year. But understanding that technology in hindsight, we could have done things a little bit differently, but I'm not second guessing anything, because all we've really done is double down on quality and try to get a higher concentration of a better product with fewer ingredients into the hands of people who need it at an affordable price.
Oh, gotcha. So that's all good stuff too. So what would you, in this current climate too, in 2021, what would you say is the most challenging part about being in this business?
The most challenging part is the fact that the supply chain in this industry is 10 times more beefed up than the demand chain. There is a great demand, but you got to keep in mind, there are millions of pounds of flour that has been grown and harvested from 2019 that's still in storage, not even counting the 2020 crop. Or the 2020 crop. We're now coming into the 2021 crop. So there are thousands and thousands of farmers that are sitting with invested money in a product that they can't sell, because the reality is, if I want to make the highest quality product and I have 2021 crop available to me at a very affordable price, there's no incentive for me to buy a 2019 crop. And I don't want to, because there's some people that's going to make the decision that I can go buy this 2019 crop for 10 cents a pound if I buy 1,000 pounds, and I can make 10,000 units of products out of these kilos of oil that I make. That's not our mentality. Our mentality is I want to make the best product on the market. So I'm going to buy that 21 harvested crop for $2 a pound, $4 a pound, whatever it may be settled upon, to ensure that I'm going to give the highest cannabinoid profile and the best product in the long run. The biggest industry for anybody, whether it be retail, processing, is really just targeting the right information to the consumer and the lack of consumer education. I'm on multiple pages here on Facebook, and I just read a lot of the questions, and you can tell people's knowledge about the industry or the plant in general with their question. One thing that's a big hindrance is who's making up recommended dosages. Every bottle says we recommend 40 milligrams or 10 milligrams. Well, okay. Is it full spectrum, broad spectrum? Is it isolate? How old is it? Was it CO2 extracted? Was it ethanol extracted? What's the potency level of it, of the total, container? And who dictates that? Well, the best answer for anybody is start low, go slow, find your own happy place, whether it's for a human, a pet, whatever it may be. That being said, I have given many of my personal pets. We have veterinarians that'll, have gone on record, giving us testimonials for their patients' experiences. And like, for instance, our pet pellets, my personal lab, in order to see what I like to see out of her, where she's not zonked out sleeping all day, but she's old, she's getting up, she's playing more, she's got a better appetite, she's not stressed out, she doesn't have anxiety. It takes her about 70 milligrams of CBD or total cannabinoid full spectrum pellets to be at that happy place. However, our multi-boost, it still takes her about 60 milligrams, and she's a quarter of the weight. So every person, every animal is different, but don't allow the bottle or the company to tell you how much you should take or what you should see results with, because it's going to be different for everybody. Our bottle is plain and simple. This is what's in it. For instance, if you have a bad headache and you go to the store and you buy a bottle of 50 milligram ibuprofens, how many of those are you going to have to take to solve your headache? Who knows? Or you can buy a bottle of 800 milligrams ibuprofen. You can probably take one and get your results. That's kind of our mentality with this, is I want to give you the most you could possibly ever need. Maybe you don't need to take a full dropper that has 89 milligrams of CBD in it. Maybe you only need a quarter. Even better, you get a better bang for your buck. This product will last you a little bit longer. So the lack of consumer knowledge.
Standardization and uniformity in dosing, standardization and uniformity in ingredient. We invite regulation. We're prepared to supply nutraceutical, pharmaceutical grade product. What we really need, or what everyone I feel like will benefit from, is some codification, some regulation. Consumers shouldn't wonder whether they're buying the same labeled thing and it's completely different. So we're poised and we're patient, and what we're hoping for is that some just common sense regulations come into this industry to take a lot of the guesswork out.
Oh, gotcha. So yeah, if a customer was to choose between like your business and 3 others just like you, why would you suggest they go with you first?
One, again, is our transparency, our willingness. Let me put this in perspective for you. There is so much money being made in this industry, whether it's marijuana, hemp, cannabis in general yields some of the biggest profit margins that are. So, and for instance, if in 1 kilo of oil from our product, from our inventory, we will make 300 units of tincture. Whereas some industries or some companies, some companies will take that 1 kilo and make 10,000 units or 1,000 units. So basically, we're not trying to stretch the margin so much that I'm going to sell you on the fact that this is going to work, even though I know it's probably not, unless you take the whole bottle. but I'm going to make your money and I'm going to make bigger margins. I want to create long-lasting clients that they don't find anything better than me. You know, for instance, it's like your grandpa that uses Brute, you know, if he's used that his entire life, it's always given the satisfaction that he's still buying Brute, even though it's been out for 70, 80 years. We want to give a long lasting product that people can trust and know that the first bottle you buy and the last bottle you buy will be made at the exact same consistency and at the exact same process. There's no inconsistencies with the way that we do things. And secondly, because we are the scale we are, everything's processed in a manner that we get the exact same cultivar from the exact same greenhouse or farm, grown under the exact same growers. It's not, you know, I took 5 pounds from this person, 10 pounds, I put them all together and I made an oil. No, this is strain specific, you know, and it stays that way throughout our entire process.
And in addition to the quality assurance, quality control, we're very data driven, and we're very committed to efficiency and holding ourselves to a high standard. So as we learn, we want everyone else to learn, but yeah, to your question, why someone should choose us over others is integrity and sincerity. And if, you know, there's an issue with our products, then we value relationships with our customers, and we're very willing to communicate and adapt.
Yeah.
Cool. What's the number one way you guys currently bring in new customers as well?
Word of mouth. Unfortunately, as medieval as that sounds, that's where we're at. A lot of that has to stem from the fact that you've got me, the production manager, originally the machine operator, handling our social media marketing campaign. We strive to be successful. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic and being a startup, we could go and throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at a marketing firm or an internet-based company to do this for us. But how long is it going to be before I make the return investment once I pay for that? And it's too long. And we can't justify cutting corners on the things that really matter, like our product quality and our processing ability to process organic stuff that we had to get to justify investing that money. So I would probably say that, you know, moving forward with us, you're going to get an open book. There's nothing to hide, and everything that we're going to tell you is from the bottom of our heart. There's one thing that we do is we do not tell anybody anything on speculation. We're pretty dang confident if we tell you something, whether it be about the plan or about a process or a cost or, you know, anything like that. Anytime there's something that we don't know about, we're going to tell you, I don't know about that. I'll find out and I'll get back to you, because once again, we are all students. Nobody here is an expert in this industry. And I look forward to learning something new about it any chance I can get.
Oh, yep, gotcha. So you're covering a little bit about the internet as well too. So what role has that played with your business becoming more prevalent?
So in the recent months, the internet has really became a big factor. We knew that we needed to get on the Facebook social platform, not just to spread our name, but we wanted to show and share things that we're learning every day with this plant. So we started extracting terpenes. There's some videos on our Facebook page about there's a glass jar on there, and most people don't know that you can extract terpenes through CO2, but we can. But there's 2 different types of terpenes within this run coming out of this oil that come out of different pressures and different temperatures, but it's like oil and water. They completely separate themselves. Even though they both came out of the plant, it's very unique, and it's a very interesting thing that a lot of people don't think about. But we put very educational information up there. You know, this is what we're doing. Check out this. This is what we got. And create a platform for people not just to learn about us, but to learn about the industry or the plant in general.
And to your question about the internet, for example, Squarespace is one of the hosts of our commerce, and you know, we've been shut down or locked out based on their discomfort in, you know, dealing with cannabis-based industry, cannabis-based companies. I think, again, a lot of this gets back to inviting regulation. If we could standardize and codify a manner of doing business that banks, insurance companies, web hosting platforms could all agree upon, that we would have a much smoother swing at this.
Anybody and everybody, whether it's an already existing industry, has seized the opportunity to inflate prices for quotes or services based on the necessity of it being associated with hemp. Whether that's a bank loan, whether that's Squarespace charging you 4% per transaction just to process money because they suppose there's a high risk with this. I'm not sure where that risk is, but for instance, we had to get a forklift for our operation. The company that we went to buy it, they wouldn't sell it to us. You know, they were like, we're not going to loan you a forklift, or we're not going to provide you a loan for a forklift because it's going to be used for cannabis. We're like, okay, you know. So we had to go to find another bank, and it just, that's one of the things that complicates a lot of stuff. Squarespace shut us down, Square shut us down. They processed a bunch of our payments, and they just locked everything out. I was like, we're not releasing anything until you get this solved. Here's one thing about Square. You're very unlikely to ever talk to a single person that works for that company. We went for about a month and a half back and forth with email from their IT department, which were generated emails that said, sorry, you're missing some information, check these items. So we would check those items, change them, and resubmit it. And it says, okay, in 2 to 3 days, we'll get back with you. In 2 to 3 days, we get back. Sorry, your thing's not compliant. Check these 2 items. And this was over and over and over. We actually had to go through a Twitter account to get in contact with a person that worked for Square to get the issue resolved. Once we did that, we learned that they have their own CBD platform that we had to use. So a big headache. But without the internet, man, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
And once the bigger internet retailers, Amazon, Walmart.com, that once they set a policy and a standard for transactions, we'll all benefit from that. Yep. But right now, with it being an internal company policy to either not deal with hemp or deal with hemp completely, we're really we're challenged. So I mean, we're here for it and we're going to win, but we could benefit quite a bit from codification, standardization, and government regulation.
No, oh yeah, of course. And like, if you have to take a look, like 6 months to a year down the line, where would you like to see the business at?
We're set up in a way that we were ready to provide blank labeling, processing options for bigger retail lines or brand lines. We really want to emphasize the USDA organic certification. I know that there's a lot of organic crops out there, but we have this big beautiful machine behind us that can provide a consistent product. When you think of this industry going legit, and I know that's a broad term, but when I say that, I mean that if you go into any pharmacy and you buy a Sam's Choice or a Walmart Great Value ibuprofen, it is going to be the exact same pill that you bought 5 years ago from that bottle. It's so consistent, but it's made in a manufacturing facility with the utmost policies and regulation and Q&A. So we're in a position to provide that with cannabis. I can provide you with a retail line that I guarantee you, if you order products from me 2 years from now, are going to look, taste, and do the exact same as they are. And that's where we would like to see ourselves in 6 months, is finding some of these big box retailers or companies that are looking to expand, whether that's Mexico, Europe, out of the States, across the States, and be their midterm processor for that.
I would like in the next 6 months for the FDA to state clearly that this is either a drug or a food, that it's allowable to go into livestock feed. There are any number of things that could come from I feel like simple decisions from the regulatory agencies that would then allow us to know where to shift resources and go about this properly. But without that direction and without that guidance, we're just unfortunately in kind of a wild, wild west, snake oil market.
Oh, of course. And ultimately, down that line too, what would be your ideal role as your company grows? Like, what would you want to be doing on a day-to-day basis, ideally?
For me, it's going to be in here with my lab coat on and just learning everything there is about this plant. My favorite thing to do is to shake the hand of a new farmer that's interested in growing, to advise them on the best methods of growing. First and foremost, if you're planning on growing, please don't plant more acres than you can walk by and individually touch every leaf on every plant, which means you should only plant a quarter of an acre if it's just you by yourself at the most. But we've seen so many people suffer catastrophically by having to burn so much crop because they planted it like an old row crop with corn or something, and just let it get either too hot or get infested or wind damages and just lose half their investment and suffer. But I like to go out there, shake hands with the farmer, look at the product as it's growing and it's going through the full plant growth cycle, and then step them through the process all the way through where it comes to me and here in this machine. We get in it with lab glasses and actual, documentation and data, and really squeeze the best product out of that plant, make it the best that it can be, and to provide a product. So ideally, that's where I would like to see myself is down the road for sure.
Oh, awesome. Any advice you would give for somebody who's thinking about entering the industry?
Do it, tread lightly. If you're going to do it, try to be as legit as you possibly can. Cutting corners is not going to help anybody. It's not going to help the industry. Start slow. Don't come at it with, I want to get as many retail options as I possibly can, because one, it doesn't matter how much you have. In the long run, the quality product, you may make some initial sales, but your return sales are going to plummet because you cut the corners on one, getting the quality oil, quality extraction, and actually trying to make a quality product. And then two is do your research on places like this. Listen to the people that are doing these interviews and live through their mistakes, because there's no sense in reinventing a wheel. Learn from people's mistakes and just go slow, and don't try to rush it, because this industry is not going anywhere. It's kind of plateaued out with where I think the average prices on market as far as oil and stuff like that. I don't think we'll ever see the days where kilos of oil we're selling for $10,000 a kilo again. We're going to be closer to where we're at right now. They'll come back up as the glut moves through, but it's going to start, right now it's doing this wave thing, and it's going to plateau out, and regulation will also expedite that process as well.
Oh, got it. And what's the best way if somebody wants to reach out to you too? What's the best way they can get a hold of you guys?
Through the Facebook page is a great way. It's got our, you can email me directly. It's blake@aishemp.net. But once again, the Facebook page or the website, both those links on there. There should be some numbers associated on there as well if you feel like you need to call. But that's the best way. And I'm usually the direct point of contact, because Chris is usually either this side of the building, the other side of the building, and Paige is always doing stuff. I'm usually the first point of contact, and I usually can direct anybody and get them in touch with anybody from there.
Awesome. It was great having you guys on. You're more than welcome to be on future interviews as well. And
absolutely.
Yeah, Henry here signing off. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Henry.
Thank you.